Oh yeah, back again. Now this video was requested a very long time ago, and I did a little bit of work on it, but I actually took this topic to the community, the Dungeons and Dragons community on Facebook, and I asked them the answer. And I already knew the answer was pretty obvious, but they provided with so many different ideas, and it was fantastic. I suspect you will find this video very, very enlightening or useful if you are unaware about how you can gain advantage. Now, you will find the start time for this video down in the description. I will put it down there, but the video does go unlisted, so unless you go through your notifications, you won't be able to access the live stream till later, unless you're a patron, because I make it available to patrons, and then you'll have to wait for the edited version to come out before you can watch this if you aren't able to hang around. Now, if you're not familiar with my live streams, normally what I do is I will present everything first, and then I will open it up for questions and answers. And that is exactly the same format I will be following for today, because it's worked for me in the past, it should continue to work for me in the future, and that's what I'm going to do. So you will get to see my face. Oh, I just take my earplugs out. Oh, yeah. Oh, God. All right, so I'm here. We're going to talk about this topic. I'll do my intro, and I'll discuss the topic, and I've got a few slides for you because I know slides are nice. And then, we'll follow up with questions and answers at the end. And hopefully this answers the question to your satisfaction. Hopefully YouTube has managed to keep up with me, and the face image is working around, so it hasn't classified me as being too ugly, which is excellent. Thank you very much, YouTube. All right, let's start. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, I'm going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons because I always talk about Dungeons and Dragons. So the topic is, how do you gain advantage on attack rolls in Dungeons and Dragons 5e? Well, you would think that would be fantastic. Would it not be fantastic to be able to get advantage on your attack rolls? But the problem is, in Dungeons and Dragons 5e, that advantage is rare. It's something that doesn't come up very often. Yeah, right. You have no idea if you thought that was the case, because it comes up a lot. Heaps and heaps. So the first thing to understand with advantage is, I've already done a video on the concept of advantage and disadvantage, but advantage is when you get to roll two dice, two 20-sided dice that is, and you take the highest result of the dice rolls, okay, just one of them, and you add that to your bonus, and then life is good to you. And then we just move on from there, which is wonderful. So the first thing I'm going to tell you right now is that getting advantage is actually very easy and quite common, and something that will come up in your game many times. Inspiration points are a good example. I know a lot of players often forget they have inspiration, and so don't forget to use it. You can apply your inspiration and give yourself, your character, advantage on an attack roll, or you can give advantage to one of your allies who needs to have advantage because they rolled really badly. So you can use it on your character or somebody else's character, and given that most people tend to forget about their inspiration points, you have access to advantage quite often. So standing on high ground is one of those things that a lot of players consider something that should give them advantage, but it is a dungeon master discretion sort of thing. So if your dungeon master will play along, fantastic. If they won't, you'll have to choose or select a different way of getting your advantage on your attack. One of the most common things I would do in my game when I was playing is I would use the athletics. My athletics was quite high, and I would use the shove action, particularly when I had more than one attack available. I would shove a creature prone, and then once the creature was prone, it was all good, because all of the melee allies would then come on in and have a whack at the downed creature and get advantage. Not great if you have a whole lot of party members who are using ranged attacks, but if you've got party members who are willing to get in close, it can work out quite nicely. Now remember, get the creature prone and get advantage when you're up close. It works fantastic. Not good for ranged attacks, but other than that, it's going to be a good technique and very easy to do. What about the barbarians? reckless attack. If you are a barbarian, then use that reckless attack as often as you possibly can. Another rule that seems to sort of pulled out by players is that let's use flanking. If we have flanking, that's great. So if you have somebody who's either side of the enemy, then you get to have flanking bonuses, and the bonus is advantage. Now, it only works if you have the variant rule in place. If your Dungeon Master is not using the variant rule, or you have as a group decided not to use the variant rule flanking, then it won't apply. But don't worry, there's still more. It's not over yet. What about using the hide action? Or just being hidden, setting it up so that the enemy walks into the space, you set up your ambush, you're hidden, and you will get advantage. Now, look, as long as you don't go running out into the open so you're seen, it should work well. Now, if you are a rogue, at level 2, you get your cunning action. And that means that bonus action can be used to hide. And so you should be doing it as often as you possibly can, because you're going to get one attack and you want to have advantage so you can get your sneak attack without an ally being within 5 feet. So a really simple way of gaining advantage. What about something simple? It's only a level 2 spell. Cast invisibility on an ally or yourself, and their first attack is going to get advantage whether they are up close or shooting at range. No brainer. There are so many different ways you can get advantage in this game. In fact, the list goes on, and I will continue with my list because I'm only on page 1. What about, let's really ramp it up, because there is greater invisibility. Now you don't just have to worry about one round of getting advantage, you have to concern yourself with the fact that as long as the spell is in effect, you're going to get advantage on every single attack roll that you make. I do that now. I'm playing a character who is level 11, and I have had access to greater invisibility for a little while, and this pretty much means I drop the spell, and then for the entire combat I can just run around the field and everything is attacking me with disadvantage, and I get advantage on all of my attacks. And I use a lot of attack spells, so works out well for me. So why not do it? Why not do it? It's there, right? It's there. Okay, what other options are there? Because Fred, that's not the only. I don't have access to greater invisibility. I don't want to use the invisibility spell for that. It's only going to be advantage for one round. But put advantage in the right hands. It makes a big difference. You make a rogue invisible and they have advantage. That sneak attack, particularly if they couldn't get it before, that changes things. You increase the chances of a paladin doing a lot of damage, particularly if they roll a 20, and therefore they start bringing in their smite. So it all works out quite nicely. What about the paladin? The paladin's vow of enmity. Oh gosh, I hate that word. The vow of enmity. Oh god, I'm never going to be able to say it, but you know what I'm talking about. Paladins can get advantage. It's very, very simple. It's very easy. Well, what about let's think outside of the square. Let's go outside of the circle. Let's go outside of the perimeters of what we think is sensible and not sensible. What about just intimidating the enemy? And then pray the Dungeon Master's discretion will allow you to have advantage. If you can frighten and scare the enemy enough, they won't necessarily be doing a particularly good job of attacking you. You might get advantage on them and they might have disadvantage on you. It does require some Dungeon Master discretion, I do realise. What about create a distraction? Yet again, another Dungeon Master discretion sort of thing, but these are all things you can try. It might not be written on your character sheet, but there's nothing saying that you can't give it a shot, particularly if you've got a Dungeon Master who's willing and open to trying a couple of different things along the way. Okay, no brainer, anybody can do it, and there are so many things that anybody can do. What about the help action? When you can't do anything useful, if your attacks aren't actually being useful in any way because they can't get through the monster's damage immunity, or the types of thing that you're trying to affect on it isn't going to work, give somebody else who can be effective the help action. So they get advantage. Use the help action, get advantage. What about True Strike? Now, normally when it comes to True Strike, I would not suggest it. But when you're absolutely desperate and you can cast the spell and you don't want to get close enough to be hit, and you can't, so applying the help action is not going to work in this situation, then True Strike works. certainly a good way of using it when you don't want to get close, you want to stay back a little bit and give it to somebody else to use and utilize. Why not? True Strike. Okay, no brainer. It's not a very high level spell. There are so many spells available though. Fairy Fire. The spell allows you to cast it in an area, and sparkling enemies now. Sparkling enemies, those enemies now, you have advantage on all of the sparkling ones. There are a truckload of spells that you can use to gain advantage. Guiding Bolt, and the list goes on. There's more and more and more that you can utilize in some way to gain advantage. Hold monster, hold person, all these sorts of things. Let's go down into the conditions. Now, if you can start using your spells to impart a condition or your class features, because often you'll have a class feature that can impart a particular type of condition on your enemy, then why not use them? Exactly. So what conditions will allow you to have advantage on somebody that you can impart that condition on? Well, blind your enemy, paralyze them, petrify them, restrain them, stun. So first off, remember, prone is also a condition. I already talked about prone. Blinding, not that difficult to do. Stun, why not? Your monk can stun anything, pretty much. Get them to the right point. Doesn't require a lot of levels. You can do this. Restraining, yet again, something that can come up quite a lot. Okay, what about feats? Are there feats that I can use? Yes, there is the grappler feat. Get advantage. Mounted combat. Get advantage. All of these are up close, okay? They're not at range, but still really useful. Let's talk about class features. There are class features coming out of my rear, out of my buttocks when it comes to getting advantage. Feating attack, distracting attack, shadow step, reckless attack. I mean, let's get real. There's just so many different ways to get advantage in Dungeons and Dragons 5e. So when somebody comes up to me and says, I don't know how to get advantage, this mechanic of advantage, I want to get advantage so I got a better chance of striking the target, but it's so difficult, it comes up so rarely. You have not been paying attention. There are so many different ways you can get advantage in Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and the list goes on. In fact, I believe somebody had done a tally that there might in fact be, and this might be just regarding the player's handbook and nothing else, about 50 different ways that you can gain advantage through the use of spells, the application of conditions, class features, general actions that are available to anybody in the game. 50. And then, of course, you've got all the splat books, and that opens things up yet again. So there are lots of ways to get advantage. Okay, so I have plenty of videos for Dungeon Masters and players. Lots of stuff for players on how advantage works, disadvantage, every aspect of the game. And you're welcome to go and check those out. I have a Patreon page if you want to support me, so I keep doing videos like this, and I really do appreciate it. You get access to stuff that nobody else gets access to, and priority on the topic that I talk about. I have affiliate links down in the description to the book depository and Amazon. I have a merchandise shelf if you want to check that out and buy some merch from me. I also have, as it happens, a truckload. I mean, it must be something like 800 videos plus on various topics that you really might find hugely useful. Some maybe not so much, but there's quite a few. Anyway, make sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Oh, come on. Fred, one dice? Seriously? We're talking about advantage here. Let's get another one. Here, roll 2 dice. Get yourself advantage. It's easy to do. Okay, post your questions, post your feedback. I just need a drink. I will be back. Just need to relax a second. Okay, all right. You get my face back this time. Hopefully, we covered... It's funny how things work out when it comes to game mechanics. Really is. It's quite amusing, people's view of the difficulty of playing a game a particular way. And I know a lot of people don't like Advantage as a mechanic. I like it because it's simple. But honestly, there are so many different ways. That was stone dice. Really? No, I don't believe they are. I believe they are acrylic dice. The dice that I showed you are acrylic. They are plastic. Certainly seem like they're plastic. If they were stone, they would be a lot more expensive, and I didn't pay that much for them, to be honest. These things, they're not stone. Now the dice in the videos, if you're talking about that, the little brown dice, if you're looking at that and you're thinking what sort of dice is that thing, that brown dice that I'm just put up on the screen there beside the purple dice, that there is a wooden ebony dice from Paladin Role Playing. It's a high premium product, extremely expensive but really cool. And they sent me some, and I could never afford them myself, but they just amazing, and I can't help myself. I've got to stick them in every single video because they're that impressive. So yes, the dice that you were seeing on the screen was actually not the big ones, but the smaller ones on where the miniatures were. That is actually a wooden dice, not a stone dice. Dolphus. Okay, so yes, I answered that question. Lookout Mantis, yeah, exactly. Or look out whoever. I mean, the reality is that now at level 10, I have a friend who is playing an elf. I believe it might be a wood elf. I can't remember exactly. So now they have access, they're a bard, they have access to elven accuracy. God, it's the most broken thing under this. So what they do is they cast greater invisibility. So now they're invisible for pretty much the length of the combat, and usually easy peasies. They're now going to be invisible the whole time. It's going to be very difficult unless they're dealing with a creature who can see invisibility and track them down. All they do is do something and move again, change their location so that the enemy don't know where they are. And instead of rolling 2 dice when they have advantage, because of elven accuracy, they get to roll 3 dice and take the highest result, which is just appalling. It is my friend taking power gaming to another level. But he has explained to me that he could not think any other way about the game. And I understand that the combination of something like greater invisibility when you're a bard, and then the elven accuracy, which you can only select if you are an elf. So I feel like the half elf is one of the most easily exploited races. I know people think that the human variant is, but honestly, the lack of dark vision is not great. Feats and bonuses to abilities and so forth are great, but you are an elf. Half elf gets sort of the best of both worlds of being a human and an elf. So you just don't lose out very much, which is why if I'm going to really sort of milk it and multi-class, I'll go half elf and get the best of both worlds. And right now they're playing just straight elf, and it's worked out well. You get so many different things with an elf, and of course of Xanathar's Guide to Everything, it's just full of things that were probably tested, but they still stuck in the game anyway. Anyway, I have covered the topic. What will be my next video at about 1 o'clock? I'm going to be doing a Lost Mine of Phandelver Dungeon Master Guide. So for those of you who are playing or running in the Lost Mine of Phandelver, if you're a Dungeon Master, I will be doing a character breakdown of Droop. I'm not going to say anything else. If you are a Dungeon Master and you're running the Lost Mine of Phandelver, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. I'm going to do a character breakdown of Droop. And that is my plan for 1 p.m. So stick around, make sure you've hit the bell button and you've subscribed, and I will talk about that in about an hour and a half. So I'm hoping this was useful to people. I'm hoping that people will now feel like they have alternatives to just doing the same old, with their attacks. You can get advantage. It's not hard to do. So have a good night, day, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for showing up. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.